All right, folks, get ready for a wild ride. We're about to take a deep dive into some serious ancient wisdom, and let me tell you, this stuff is potent.
Potent is an understatement.
We're tackling Zhuangzi's writings on external things, and let me warn you, it's about to get really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. External things are inherently unreliable. Bam.
Yeah.
That's how Zhuangzi kicks things off, no messing around.
Straight to the point, huh? No sugarcoating.
Nope. And that's a pretty bold statement, especially considering when he was writing this. I mean, ancient China, political turmoil everywhere.
Yeah, not exactly a time for chill vibes.
Right. Loyalty and family were paramount back then. It's like he's questioning if even those are solid ground to stand on.
So he's shaking things up right from the get-go. But,
All right.
okay, does he give us any examples to back this up? Or just drop this truth bomb and walk away?
Oh, he definitely backs it up. He lays out all these stories, almost like mini dramas, of people who did everything right
Yeah.
by society standards and still got totally screwed over.
Ooh, give us the juicy details.
Well, he talks about these loyal ministers, guys like Long Feng who got executed, Big An punished. There's even Jizi pretending to be crazy just to survive. It's intense.
Man, that's rough. And it's not just these advisors, right? He takes aim at the top dogs, too.
You bet. Rulers like Ji and Zhu, guys with all the power you can imagine, still lost their thrones. It's like Zhuangzi saying, look, no matter how high you climb, how much you achieve, it can all vanish in a blink.
Okay, so that's kind of a bleak outlook, to be honest. Is he saying we should just give up and let fate roll over us?
Not necessarily. I think it's more like he's urging us to examine our attachment
Or our attachments, too?
to everything. Power, possessions, relationships, things we think give us security but might actually be built on shaky ground.
So it's less about don't bother trying and more about don't be fooled into thinking these externals are the source of true happiness.
You got it. And to really drive this home, he tells this story, one that stuck with me, the carp in the rut.
Ooh, I love this one. It's where Zhuangzi's down on his luck, needs to borrow some grain.
Yeah, and he ends up talking to this.
Very opinionated carp. I love how Zhuangzi paints these pictures with his words.
Oh, it's brilliant. So Zhuangzi's family is struggling, right, because of this marquis for help. And the guy's like, yeah, I'll get you some grain, but come back later.
Classic bureaucratic runaround. So where does the fish come in?
So on his way home, Zhuangzi sees this carp flopping around in a dried-up rut. Barely any water to breathe. The carp's like, help it fish out. And Zhuangzi, being Zhuangzi, comes up with this elaborate plan to divert a whole river to save it.
Okay, ambitious but noble. Save the little guy with a major public works project.
And the carp is not impressed. It's basically like, dude, I'll be fish jerky by the time you manage that. How about a bucket of water and now W?
So the carp is all about practical solutions, and Zhuangzi's got his head in the clouds a little bit. What's the takeaway here?
I think it's a critique of two things. First, those who get so fixated on some huge future goal that they miss the simple solutions right in front of them.
So don't let ambition blind you to what's actually helpful in the present.
Exactly. And second, it's about people clinging to these temporary fixes, like that tiny bit of water, instead of seeking a more stable situation. We can get so attached to what's familiar, even if it's not really working for us.
Man, this is hitting home for me. How many times have I stressed over some long-shot plan when I could have taken smaller, more immediate steps?
Right. Zhuangzi's making us ask, what rut am I stuck in and what's the real water I need? But he doesn't stop there. Oh, no, he's got another story, and this one involves a fish so big.
Okay, you're killing me. What kind of fish are we talking about?
Picture this. A nobleman named Ren. A hook so big it needs 50 oxen to bait it, and the entire East Sea as his fishing ground.
50 oxen? This is no ordinary fishing trip. Did he actually catch anything with that monster hook?
He spent a whole year fishing, just when you think he's going to come home empty-handed. Bam! This colossal fish takes the bait. I'm talking waves crashing, the sea rumbling. A total battle for the ages.
All right, you've got me on the edge of my seat. This is epic. Does our hero conquer the beast?
He reels it in. And get this, he feeds a whole region for years with this massive fish. He becomes a legend, the ultimate success story, right?
Right.
But that's where Zhuangzi gets sneaky. He brings in these small talents and contrasts them with Ren's epic achievement.
Small talents. Who are these guys and why are they getting called out?
They're the ones who see Ren's success and think, I can do that too. But they're totally missing the point. They're trying to copy the surface level, the big flashy outcome, without understanding the effort, the years of dedication, the sheer scale of what Ren accomplished.
No, so it's not just about the goal, but the journey and the context. You can't just parachute into someone else's success and expect the same results.
Exactly. It's about knowing yourself, your own strengths, limitations, resources, and recognizing that blindly chasing someone else's idea of success might lead you totally astray.
Man, that's a serious call out. I know I've been guilty of comparing myself to others and feeling like I don't measure up. It's easy to do. But Zhuangzi seems to be saying, find your lane, figure out what your version of awesome looks like, and go for that.
It's not about settling for mediocrity, right? It's about setting your sights high, but doing it from a place of self-awareness,
Uh-huh.
knowing who you are, not who you think you should be, based on someone else's highlight reel.
You nailed it.
This is some serious wisdom we're unpacking here. Okay, gotta ask though, does he ever bring in other big thinkers into these conversations? Like, how do you think he would have felt about, say, Confucius?
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, Zhuangzi does use Confucius as a character to explore these ideas about external things. But it's not your typical Confucius says kind of story.
Oh, how so?
He's using Confucius, the ultimate rule follower, to question the whole idea of seeking wisdom only from external sources.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What's the story? Give me the deets.
Right, so first we meet the disciples of another sage, Lao Lai, and they're describing Confucius to their master, the picture they paint. It's interesting.
How so? What do they
Uh,
say about him? They talk about him being lofty in manner, but humble in action. They say he's burdened by the world's worries, belonging nowhere.
That's a pretty mixed review. Kind of sounds like they're throwing shade, like Confucius is trying too hard.
It's subtle, but it's definitely there. They present him as this restless soul, constantly searching, striving, looking for answers outside himself.
So I'm guessing Lao Lai is curious now, right? He wants to meet this guy everyone's buzzing about.
He does. And when they finally meet, Lao Lai doesn't hold back. He tells Confucius straight up, dude, drop the pride, ditch the act. You're not fooling anyone.
Ouch! That's gotta sting, especially coming from another respected sage. How does Confucius take it?
He's definitely shaken,
Hmm.
but he doesn't argue. He even asks Lao Lai if there's more he can learn. You can almost see the wheels turning in his head, like he's starting to question his own approach.
So what's the message here? Is Zhuangzi saying Confucius was wrong, that tradition and learning are bad things?
I don't think so. I think it's more about recognizing that true understanding isn't just about absorbing information. It's about internalizing it, integrating it with your own experience.
Okay, so it's not either, but both hand.
Exactly. Confucius represents the external search, the pursuit of knowledge for knowledge's sake. But Lao Lai is all about inner wisdom, letting go of the ego and the need to always be right.
It's like saying, read all the books you want, but don't forget to live and learn from your own life, too.
Perfectly put.
Mm-hmm.
But Zhuangzi doesn't stop there. Oh no, he's got another story up his sleeve, and this one's a doozy. It involves a duke, a dream, and, well, a pretty unlucky tortoise.
Okay, this is the one where the Duke has a prophetic dream, right? Spill the beans. I'm dying to hear this.
All right, so the duke dreams of this guy with flowing hair who claims to be a servant of the river god. And this dream dude predicts the duke will be caught by a fisherman named Yuji.
Wait, hold up. Caught by a fisherman? Like, he thinks he's going to turn into a fish.
No, not quite. The duke wakes up, and he's told that the guy in his dream was actually a divine tortoise.
A talking tortoise.
Yeah.
This is getting surreal.
Right. And to make it even weirder, the duke checks, and they're really a fisherman named Yuji. So he calls this guy to court. And guess what? Yuji shows up with a giant white tortoise he just caught.
No way. So the dream was legit. What did they do with this magical tortoise? Did they, like, ask it for lottery numbers?
That's where things take a dark turn. The duke is torn. He wants to honor this creature as divine, but he also wants to use it for divination, to try and force it to predict the future.
Oh, man, I'm sensing this doesn't end well for the tortoise.
It doesn't. They basically torture it, trying to extract some kind of knowledge. They open its shell, drill holes in it, and of course the tortoise dies.
That's awful. So even a divine tortoise can't escape a bad fate. What's the message here?
It's about the limits of knowledge, even divine knowledge. The tortoise knew its fate, but it couldn't change it. And the duke, despite knowing the tortoise was important, was so driven by his need for control that he caused harm.
It's like a warning about clinging to certainty. Sometimes, even with good intentions, we end up making things worse by trying to force things.
And it circles back to that initial idea. External things, even knowledge or power, are ultimately unreliable. They can be taken away, misused, or lead us astray.
So what's the answer then? Are we just supposed to wallow in uncertainty and accept that nothing really matters?
Not at all. Zhuangzi's not about nihilism. He's got this fascinating perspective on usefulness. He even uses a conversation with Wei Shi, a logician who thought Zhuangzi's ideas were, well, useless to make his point.
Oh, I love when he gets sassy like that. So how did he respond to that burn?
He basically flips the whole idea of useful on its head. He starts by talking about the Earth, how vast it is,
Yeah.
and then points out that the only space we actually see is a little bit we stand on.
So true, we get so focused on our immediate needs and surroundings.
Right. And then he asks, what good is the Earth if you dig a hole all the way down to the Yellow Springs? Meaning, what's the practical use of all those vast depths we can't even access?
Not much good for living or farming down there, that's for sure.
Exactly. So in a way, the majority of the Earth is useless to us. But here's the twist. That vast uselessness is what makes the small space we do use so valuable. It's like the empty space in a room lets us move around and use the furniture.
Whoa, I never thought of it that way. So he's not saying useless things are bad, but that their non-usefulness actually makes the useful stuff possible.
You got it. He's showing us the interconnectedness of everything. Even what seems useless on the surface can have a huge impact on what we consider valuable or practical.
Mind blown. I'm seriously seeing the world in a whole new way thanks to Zhuangzi. Like he's pointing out the hidden connections we might normally miss.
And he doesn't just apply this to physical things. He talks about how someone who knows how to swim, they do it effortlessly. But someone who doesn't, they're going to struggle just to stay afloat.
So it's a metaphor for how our skills and talents, our inner resources, allow us to navigate life more smoothly. The useless is what makes the useful possible.
Exactly. He's suggesting that the ability to flow and drift, to adapt, is a sign of true wisdom. Rigidity and clinging to fixed ideas, that's what creates suffering.
It's like he's saying, go with the flow, baby. Don't fight the current. Learn to ride the waves of life.
And true sages, according to Zhuangzi, they don't get stuck in one place. They don't cling to any particular role or status. They move through life with a sense of detachment. Appreciate the past, but not be bound by it. Always present, always adapting.
That's such a powerful image. It's not about being passive. It's about having that inner strength and flexibility to handle whatever life throws your way.
And what's really fascinating? He takes this whole idea of letting go and applies it to something we might not expect. Language itself.
Wait, so now words are the enemy?
Not exactly. He recognizes how powerful they are, but also how limited. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, those who can forget language to connect directly with meaning, those people are rare. Where can I find someone like that so we can just talk in silence?
Whoa. He's saying that words can only take us so far. There's this deeper understanding that goes beyond labels and explanations.
It's about intuition, direct experience, a connection that doesn't need words. And, he doesn't just talk about this, he embodies it in his writing.
How so?
His use of stories, metaphors, paradoxes. It's all designed to bypass our logical minds and tap into a deeper knowing. He's not just giving us information, he's inviting us to feel the truth of what he's saying.
He's like, don't just take my word for it. Go experience these ideas. See what speaks to you, what makes you think, what opens up new possibilities.
Exactly. And that's why his work is still so relevant today. He's not giving us rules to follow. He's giving us a framework for thinking, a way to approach life with more curiosity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to let go of our fixed ideas, even the ones we have about ourselves.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've talked about the pitfalls of relying on externals for happiness, the importance of being present, the courage to let go of ego and expectations, and this amazing idea of understanding that goes beyond words.
It's been quite a journey. But, there's one final story I think really sums up what we've been talking about. It's about this guy, Yen Min, and he's dealing with a really tough loss. So to really express his grief, he goes all out, hires a professional mourner.
A professional mourner? Like that was a thing back then.
Oh yeah, these guys were like the masters of destruction when it came to expressing sorrow.
Masters of destruction. Okay, now I'm picturing some kind of ancient emo band. What do these professional mourners actually do?
Well, they were known for these really dramatic displays of grief, wailing, chanting. Some even resorted to, self-harm.
Wow, that's taking mourning to a whole other level. So how does this tie into Zhuangzi's teachings? Where do external things fit into this whole mourning thing?
Well, Zhuangzi noticed that a lot of Yen Min's followers, seeing this intense display of mourning, They felt like they had to do the same.
So it's like they got caught up in trying to match the professional's performance, almost like a competition to prove who was more heartbroken.
Exactly. And sadly, some of them even ended up dying from grief or from injuries they inflicted on themselves.
That's really heavy. So what's Wang's point here? Is he saying it's wrong to mourn?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
He's highlighting the danger of blindly following external rituals or expectations, even when it comes to something as personal as grief. It's like, are you really feeling this, or are you just performing for others?
It's a good reminder to check in with ourselves, to honor our own unique experience and not get swept up in what we think we should be feeling.
Right on. And he contrasts this with stories of figures like Zhu Yu and Wu Guang. These guys were offered positions of power, prestige, the whole 9 yards, and they turned it all down
Wait, why?
because those things didn't align with their values.
Huh?
They understood that external markers of success, they don't last. They chose to prioritize inner peace and staying true to themselves.
They were living that Zhuangzi life before it was cool. They knew that real fulfillment doesn't come from chasing those external things, but from cultivating something deeper.
Exactly. And Zhuangzi goes even further, suggesting that even language itself can be a trap, a distraction from true understanding. He uses this beautiful analogy of a fisherman using bait to catch fish.
Okay, I love a good analogy. Break it down for me.
He says the bait is like words. They're used to get our attention, to draw us in. But once we've caught the meaning, the essence of what's being said, we should let go of the words.
Kind of like the fisherman discards the bait once he's caught the fish.
Exactly. Don't cling to the tool. Focus on what it's pointing to. Don't get so caught up in the words that you miss the deeper meaning behind them.
So it's about going beyond the surface, diving into the depths of understanding.
And that's the beauty of Zhuangzi. He doesn't tell us what to think. He invites us to experience these ideas for ourselves, feel their truth in our own hearts and minds.
He's a guide, not a dictator.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been mind-blowing. We've explored the trap of relying on externals for happiness, the importance of being present, letting go of ego, and this amazing idea of understanding that goes beyond words.
It's been quite a journey, for sure. But there's one final story I think really encapsulates everything we've been talking about. It's about this guy named Yan Men, and he's lost someone close to him.
Oh, that's tough.
And he wants to express his grief, really go all out.
So what does he do?
He hires a professional mourner.
A professional mourner? Wait, like that was a job back then?
Oh, yeah, it was a thing. They were like the masters of expressing sorrow.
Masters of sorrow, huh? I'm picturing like a whole dramatic performance.
You got it. Wailing, chanting. Some even did things like self-harm.
Wow, that's intense. So what's the connection to all this stuff we've been talking about with Zhuangzi?
Well, Zhuangzi noticed that Yan Men's followers, they saw all this, and they felt like they had to do the same.
Like they had to keep up, prove how sad they were.
Exactly. And some of them, they took it too far.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, some even died from grief or from hurting themselves.
Wow, that's really heavy. So what's the message here? Is Wangzi saying don't mourn?
No, it's not about that. It's about being aware, Are you really feeling this, or are you just putting on a show?
So even in grief, we can get caught in externals and expectations.
Exactly. And to highlight this, he contrasts it with stories of these other figures, like Zhu Yu and Wu Guang.
Okay, tell me about them. Who are these guys?
These were men who were offered, power, prestige, the whole deal, and they said, no thanks.
Seriously, why would they turn that down?
Because those things didn't matter to them. They understood that those external markers of success, they're temporary, fleeting.
They were way ahead of their time, those guys. They knew true happiness wasn't about that stuff.
Yep. They prioritized inner peace, living in line with their own values.
They were walking the walk, for sure.
And Zhuangzi takes it a step further, He suggests that language itself can be a trap, a distraction from really understanding.
Hold up. Now words are the enemy. How are we supposed to talk about this stuff then?
He uses this great analogy about a fisherman using bait to catch a fish.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Go on.
The bait, he says, is like words. We use them to attract attention, to draw someone in.
To get them hooked, so to speak.
Exactly. But once you've got the meaning, the essence, you can let go of the words, just like the fisherman discards the bait.
Don't cling to the tool. Focus on what it's actually pointing to.
Yes. Go beyond the words themselves. Experience the deeper meaning directly.
It's like that saying, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao.
Exactly. And that's what makes Zhuangzi so cool. He's not telling you what to think. He's inviting you to think for yourself
Discover your own truth, your own way.
and to realize that maybe sometimes words just get in the way.
Wow, this has been incredible. We've covered so much ground today. I'm still processing it all.
It's a lot to unpack,
Yeah.
but hopefully it's given everyone some food for thought.
To look beyond those external things,
Yeah.
to connect with their own inner wisdom.
And to maybe, just maybe, find a moment of silence to really listen to what their heart is saying.
This has been a wild ride through the mind of Zhuangzi. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.